The emergency meeting at Earth Colony Station Alpha was not going well. Admiral Susan Boyd sat at the head of a long table, looking at reports that made no sense. 3 days ago, the New Horizon had limped back to human space using backup chemical, thrusters, and manual navigation. Their story about an alien girl who could destroy technology with her voice sounded like science fiction. "Let me understand this correctly," said General Chris Martinez, leaning forward with his arms crossed. "One alien child disabled your entire ship by speaking a single word?" Dr. Martin Cruz, the head of xenobiology research, was reading through Alex Carter's preliminary report. "The electromagnetic field measurements are unlike anything we've ever seen. According to this data, the girl doesn't just create an electromagnetic pulse. She seems to be able to manipulate the quantum fields that all our technology depends on, which makes her the most powerful weapon in the galaxy," General Martinez said. "Think about it. One word from her could disable an entire enemy fleet. She could shut down planetary defense systems, destroy communication networks, or collapse entire civilizations back to the Stone Age." "She's not a weapon," Admiral Boyd said firmly. "She's a person. A child who has been through terrible trauma. A child who could end human civilization if she has a bad day," the general shot back. Dr. Cruz set down the report. "According to Dr. Carter's notes, she's been too afraid to speak since they brought her aboard. She communicates only through drawings and simple gestures. The psychological trauma appears to be severe." "Good," General Martinez said. "That means she won't accidentally destroy anything while we figure out how to use her ability." "We're not using her ability," Admiral Boyd said, her voice getting dangerous. "She's under our protection, not our command." The argument continued for another hour before Dr. Cruz suggested they actually meet the girl before making any decisions about her future. She was being kept in a specially designed facility that Lisa Park had helped create. The room was completely mechanical, with no electronic systems at all. Everything was operated by hand cranks, pulleys, and simple machines. When they entered the room, they found Nira sitting at a simple wooden table, drawing with colored pencils. Lisa Park sat across from her working on her own drawing. The two had developed a complex communication system using pictures, and Lisa had become Nira's primary caretaker. "How is she adjusting?" Admiral Boyd asked quietly. "Better than expected," Lisa replied. "She's incredibly intelligent. She's learned to read some basic English just from the picture books I've been showing her. She understands far more than she can communicate back to us." Nira looked up when the new people entered. Her dark eyes moved from person to person, and she seemed to be studying them carefully. She picked up her pencil and drew a quick sketch of each person, getting their basic features right even though she had never seen them before. "Remarkable visual memory," Dr. Cruz observed, "and artistic ability." General Martinez walked closer to the table. "Ask her how many ships she's destroyed." "I'm not asking her that," Lisa said firmly. "Then I will." The general pointed to himself, then to Nira, then drew a simple picture of a ship. He made an exploding gesture and pointed back to her. Nira understood immediately. Her face went pale, and she started drawing frantically. Picture after picture showed ships going dark and falling. Some were the sharp-edged alien vessels that had kept her prisoner. Others were different designs, ships from species they had never seen before. "She's destroyed dozens of ships," General Martinez said with satisfaction. "Look at all these drawings." But Admiral Boyd was looking at Nira's face, not her drawings. The girl was crying as she drew, and her hands were shaking. Each picture seemed to cause her physical pain. "She's not proud of it," the Admiral realized. "She's horrified by what she's done." Lisa gently took the pencil away from Nira and drew a simple picture of a hug. She opened her arms and Nira collapsed into them, crying silently. The girl's whole body was shaking. "She has survivor's guilt," Dr. Cruz said quietly. "She blames herself for the deaths of everyone who was on those ships, even the ones who were holding her prisoner," Lisa added. "She doesn't see herself as a victim. She sees herself as a monster." They spent the next several weeks trying to understand Nira's past through her drawings and the few words she was willing to write down. Her people, the Zathani, had been a peaceful species that lived on a world with very little metal. They had developed their electromagnetic abilities as a defense against the metal tools of other species. The Kethvar had discovered the Zethani by accident and immediately saw the military potential. They had wiped out the entire species except for a few individuals who they kept as living weapons. Nira had been forced to destroy ships and space stations for almost 50 years before she finally managed to escape. 50 years, Dr. Cruz said, reading through Lisa's translation notes. She's been a prisoner longer than most humans have been alive. And she's been alone on that station for 8 months, afraid to speak because she might accidentally hurt someone, Admiral Boyd added. General Martinez was not moved by the tragic story. All of this just proves how valuable she is. The Kethvar wiped out an entire species to get weapons like her. We can't let that kind of power fall into enemy hands. She's not property, Lisa said angrily. She's a person with feelings and rights. She's an alien weapon that could destroy our entire civilization, the general replied. Personal feelings don't matter when the survival of humanity is at stake. The argument was interrupted by an urgent message from long-range sensors. Ships were coming, lots of them, and they didn't match any human designs. The Kethvar had found them. Fleet Commander Grakthos sent his message to every human colony and station simultaneously. His words were translated by the ship's computer, but the meaning was clear. Return our property or watch your worlds burn. The message included images of Nira, taken during her years as a prisoner. It also included images of planets that had been destroyed, their surfaces turned to glass by Kethvar weapons. The message was simple. They had 72 hours to hand over Nira, or humanity would join the list of extinct species. Their fleet has over 500 ships, reported the sensor officer. Each one is capable of destroying a planet. General Martinez turned to Admiral Boyd. How many ships do we have? 57 in the home fleet. Maybe 30 more if we can call in ships from the outer colonies. So we're outnumbered 10 to 1 by an enemy that specializes in destroying entire civilizations. The general looked at Nira, who was still sitting at her table, unaware of the conversation happening around her. We need to use her now before they get here. Dr. Cruz shook his head. Even if we could convince her to use her ability, we don't know how far it reaches. She might not be able to affect their entire fleet. Then we put her on a ship and get her close enough, General Martinez said. She won't do it, Lisa said quietly. I've been working with her for weeks. She would rather die than use her voice to hurt people again. Admiral Boyd studied the tactical display showing the approaching Kethvar fleet. Maybe we don't need her to hurt people. Maybe we just need her to be herself. What do you mean? The Kethvar are coming here because they want her back. They're not going to destroy her if they think they can capture her. We use that against them. General Martinez was getting impatient. Admiral, we have less than 3 days before they arrive. Whatever plan you're thinking of, it needs to work the first time. We won't get a second chance. I know. Admiral Boyd looked at Nira, who was drawing again. This time she was drawing humans and her own people standing together, all smiling. Lisa, I need you to ask her something. Can she control her ability at all? Can she choose when to use it? Lisa sat down with Nira and began drawing. She showed Nira speaking, then drew the choice between making technology stop or letting it continue working. She made questioning gestures. Nira looked at the drawing for a long time. Then she drew herself with her mouth closed and pointed to all the working lights in the room. She drew herself with her mouth open and crossed out all the lights. She says she can't control it, Lisa translated. When she speaks, technology dies. What if she whispers? More drawings. Nira showed that even whispering had the same effect. Any sound from her voice caused the reaction. What about singing or humming? Nira drew herself making musical sounds. And again, all the technology around her went dark. Admiral Boyd thought about this. So any vocalization triggers the effect. But what if she wanted to trigger it? Could she aim it at specific targets? The drawings that answered this question were more complex. Nira showed herself in space, with ships all around her. When she spoke, All the ships went dark, not just the ones she was looking at. She can't control the direction or the target, Lisa said. It affects everything within range. How far is her range? This was harder to draw, but Nira managed to show that her voice could affect things that were very far away. Much farther than their ships could travel. General Martinez was studying the drawings. If her range is that large, she could disable their entire fleet from a safe distance. And also disable our entire fleet at the same time, Admiral Boyd pointed out. Not if our ships are far enough away. Dr. Cruz was looking at the technical specifications again. The moment came sooner than anyone expected. War Chief Grakthos, growing impatient with the slow advance through the asteroid field, ordered his fleet to accelerate toward the human positions. His massive ships pushed forward, weapons charging. For the final assault. They're coming in fast, Jake reported from his position near the window. Lisa, it has to be now. Lisa looked at Nira, who was sitting quietly with her eyes closed. The alien girl had been preparing herself for this moment, and now her face was calm. She opened her dark eyes and looked at Lisa with something that might have been peace. Nira stood up slowly and walked to the center of the room. She had asked for this, to be standing when she spoke, not sitting or hiding. For the first time, in over 50 years, she was going to choose when and how to use her voice. She took a deep breath and spoke one word in her own language. Vashtai. The word meant freedom in the old tongue of the Zethani, but it meant something more than that. It meant the freedom to choose your own path, to protect the people you cared about, and to never be a weapon for someone else again. The effect was immediate and complete. Every light in the ship went out. Every computer screen went dark. The engines stopped. The life support systems shut down, and even the simplest electronic devices died instantly. In the space around them, the same thing was happening to every ship in both fleets. But this time, Nira was smiling. The Kethvar fleet, which had been charging forward in perfect formation, suddenly went completely dark. 500 ships that had been moving fast suddenly had no engines, no navigation, no weapons, and no communication with each other. They drifted forward on momentum alone, crashing into asteroids and each other in the darkness. The human fleet also lost power, but they had been prepared for this. Within minutes of Nira's voice reaching them, human crews were working by chemical light to restart their systems manually. They had trained for this exact situation, and their ships had been designed with manual backups for everything important. Emergency. Powers coming online. Pete Walsh reported from his position in the New Horizons engine room. He was working by flashlight, but his hands knew every switch and valve by feel. Give me 10 more minutes and I'll have engines back. All across the human fleet, similar scenes were playing out. Engineers who had spent years learning backup systems were proving their worth. Manual navigation systems that hadn't been used in decades suddenly became the most important equipment on the ships. The Kethvar were not adapting as well. Their ships had been designed to be operated by computers, with minimal manual controls. When their technology failed, they found themselves helpless. Some ships had manual life support, but most did not. Those crews were already dying in the cold vacuum of their powerless vessels. War Chief Grakthos was alive, but only because his flagship had better emergency systems than most. He floated in the darkness of his command center, trying to understand what had happened. His entire fleet had been disabled by a single word from a creature he had thought was under control. Emergency power, he commanded, but his crew just stared at him. Without their computer interfaces, they didn't know how to operate their own ship. On Nira's ship, the alien girl had collapsed after speaking. The effort of using her voice had drained her completely, but she was conscious and aware. Lisa knelt beside her, checking her pulse by chemical light. How is she? Alex asked, working to get their manual life support systems running. Tired, but alive, Lisa replied. I think speaking that word took everything she had. It was worth it, Jake said, looking out the window at the drifting Kethvar ships. Look at them. They're completely helpless. It took 3 hours for the first human ships to get their engines running again. By that time, most of the Kethvar fleet was already dead. Their ships had manual life support for maybe 30 minutes, and they had used that time trying to restart their computers instead of switching to backup systems they didn't know how to operate. Admiral Boyd was among the first to get her ship operational again. She immediately sent rescue teams to any HFY ships that still had life signs, but there weren't many. Out of 500 ships, only about 50 had crews that were still alive. War Chief Grakthos was brought aboard the human flagship as a prisoner. He was angry, confused, and demanding to know how humans had survived what his own people could not. Simple, Admiral Boyd explained. We still remember how to do things without computers. Your people forgot. This is impossible. The HFY have been spacefaring for 10,000 years. We are the masters of technology. And that's exactly your problem. You became so dependent on your technology that you forgot how to live without it. When our ships lose power, we fix them. When your ships lose power, you die. The war chief stared at her with something that might have been respect. You used our own weapon against us. No. We protected someone who needed protection, and she chose to help us. There's a difference. Over the next few days, as more human ships came online and began rescue operations, the full extent of what had happened became clear. The HFY Empire, which had terrorized the galaxy for centuries, was effectively finished. Most of their fleet was destroyed, and the survivors were stranded in human space. But something unexpected happened during the rescue operations. Many of the surviving HFY, when they saw humans risking their lives to save enemies who had come to destroy them, began to question everything they had been taught about other species. Why do you help us? Asked one HFY officer as human medics treated his injuries. We came here to kill you. Because that's what people do, replied Dr. Carter, who was leading one of the medical teams. We help each other. Nira recovered slowly from the effort of using her voice. For the first few days she couldn't speak at all, and Lisa was worried that she had permanently damaged herself. But gradually, her voice came back, and when it did, something had changed. Hello, Lisa, she said quietly, and the lights in the room stayed on. Your voice, Lisa said in amazement. It's not affecting the electronics anymore. I think I used up all my power, Nira explained, her English much better now that she could practice speaking. Or maybe I just learned how to control it. I don't know. Dr. Cruz, who had been studying Nira's condition, had a theory. I think she subconsciously chose to give up her ability. She sacrificed her power to make sure she could never be used as a weapon again. Whether this was true or not, the result was the same. Nira could now speak normally without affecting any technology. She was free to live like anyone else, without the fear that her voice would accidentally hurt people. The galaxy took notice of what had happened at the Battle of the Asteroid Field. For the first time in centuries, someone had defeated the HFY Empire, and they had done it not through superior weapons or technology, but through compassion and adaptability. Other species began to reach out to humanity, wanting to learn more about people who would risk their lives to protect a refugee and then show mercy to their enemies. Trade agreements were signed, alliances were formed, and humanity found itself welcomed into a galactic community that had been terrorized by the HFY for too long. Nira became Earth's first alien citizen, and eventually its ambassador to the newly formed Galactic Council. She helped establish what became known as the Nira Doctrine, a set of laws that prohibited the use of any sentient being as a weapon. Years later, when she addressed the Galactic Council for the first time as an official ambassador, her words were broadcast to every world in known space. I spent 50 years as a weapon, she said, standing tall at the podium. I was told that my voice was too dangerous to be free, too powerful to be trusted. But the humans taught me something that my captors never understood. True strength is not in the power to destroy, but in the wisdom to know when not to use it. Paused, looking out at representatives from dozens of species. Today I choose to use my voice not to bring silence, but to speak for those who cannot speak for themselves. I speak for every being who has been made into a weapon against their will. I speak for every refugee who needs protection. And I speak for the idea that no one, no matter how powerful or how different, should ever be alone. The galaxy listened, really listened, for the first time in centuries. And in the silence that followed her words, something new began to grow. Not the silence of fear or death, but the silence of beings who were finally ready to hear each other. The alien girl had spoken one word, and the galaxy had fallen silent. But from that silence came something that the galaxy had not known for a very long time. Hope. The Kethvar fleet arrived at the edge of human space exactly on schedule. War Chief Grakthos commanded from his flagship, a massive vessel that looked like it had been designed specifically to destroy planets. His message to the humans was simple and direct. You have our property. Return it now or die. Admiral Boyd stood on the bridge of her command ship, watching the enemy fleet on the main screen. 500 ships, each one larger and more advanced than anything humanity had ever built. In comparison, her own fleet looked like toys. Admiral, they're requesting a response, reported the communications officer. Put me through to their commander. The screen changed to show War Chief Grakthos. He was everything that humans thought aliens should look like. Tall, covered in sharp armor, with eyes that held no warmth at all. When he spoke, his voice sounded like metal grinding against stone. I am War Chief Grakthos of the Kethvar Empire. You have something that belongs to us. A small blue creature that you found in this sector. Return it immediately. I am Admiral Boyd of the Human Defense Fleet. The person you're referring to is under our protection. She's not property and we won't be handing her over to anyone. Grakthos made a sound that might have been laughter. Humans, always thinking you can protect things that are beyond your understanding. The weapon you found has killed more beings than you have words for. It is too dangerous to remain free. She's not a weapon. She's a person who has been traumatized by people like you. It is a tool for ending wars quickly. Under our control, it serves the greater good of the galaxy. Under your protection, it is a threat to all life. Admiral Boyd had expected this conversation to go badly, but she was still angry at how casually the Kethvar commander talked about Nira. She has a name, it's Nira, and she's staying with us. Then you have chosen death for your entire species. Grakthos cut the communication. On the heavily modified ship where Nira was being kept, Lisa Park was trying to explain the situation through drawings. Nira understood that the sharp-edged aliens had come back for her, and she was terrified. She drew picture after picture showing herself going with them willingly if it would save the humans. She drew herself floating in space rather than letting anyone else get hurt because of her. No, Lisa said firmly, crossing out those drawings. We're not giving you back to them, and you're not sacrificing yourself. We're going to find another. Fearsome Captain Jake Morrison, who had volunteered to be on the ship with Nira, was studying the tactical situation. Lisa, Admiral Boyd's plan requires Nira to trust us completely. She needs to be willing to use her voice at exactly the right moment. She won't do it, Lisa said. Every time I try to explain that we want her to speak on purpose, she gets scared and stops communicating entirely. What if we explain it differently? What if we show her that this time, her voice would be used to protect people instead of hurting them? Lisa tried drawing this concept. She showed the Kethvar ships coming toward human worlds, then showed Nira speaking and the alien ships stopping. She drew the human ships flying away safely. Nira looked at the drawing and shook her head violently. She drew herself speaking and all the ships going dark, human and Kethvar alike. She drew humans floating dead in space because their life support systems had failed. She's afraid she'll kill us along with them, Lisa realized. Jake had an idea. What if we show her that our ships will be far away, that only the enemy ships will be affected? More drawings. Lisa showed human ships very far away, while Nira spoke only at the Kethvar fleet. But Nira drew her voice reaching everywhere, affecting everything. She knows her ability better than we do, Lisa said. If she says it affects everything in range, then it affects everything. Dr. Alex Carter, who was also on the ship, had been quiet during this conversation. Now he spoke up. What if that's exactly what we want? What if the plan is for her to disable all the ships? Our ships too? Think about it. The Kethvar are used to fighting with advanced technology. They depend on computers for everything. Navigation, weapons, life support, probably even basic decision-making. But humans have backup systems. We still know how to do things manually. Jake was beginning to understand. You're saying that if all the ships lose power, humans would have an advantage because we're more adaptable? Exactly. The Kethvar have been a spacefaring race for thousands of years. They've probably forgotten how to function without their technology. But humans have only been in space for a few hundred years. We still remember how to do things the hard way. Lisa started drawing this new idea. She showed all the ships losing power, but then she showed humans working to fix their ships while the Kethvar just floated helplessly. Nira studied these drawings for a long time. She drew question marks next to the pictures of humans working on their ships. She wants to know if we're sure we can survive without our technology, Lisa translated. Show her our backup systems, Jake suggested. Lisa drew the inside of a human ship showing manual controls, chemical engines, and mechanical life support systems. She showed humans operating these systems by hand. Nira looked impressed. She drew similar pictures of Kethvar ships, but when she tried to show the aliens operating manual systems, she crossed them out. She drew the Kethvar just sitting in their dark ships, unable to do anything. She's telling us that the Kethvar can't function without their technology, Alex said. But are we sure we can? Jake thought about his years of training. Every human ship had manual backups for critical systems. Every crew member was trained to operate their ship without computers. It was basic safety protocol. We'll have to be sure. This is our only chance. The next day, War Chief Grakthos sent another message. You have 24 hours remaining. After that, we begin destroying your worlds one by one until you surrender the weapon. Admiral Boyd called Jake on a secure channel. How is she doing? Lisa thinks she's ready. She understands the plan and she's willing to try it. But she's scared. We're all scared. This is either going to save humanity or get us all killed. No pressure then. Jake, make sure she knows that this is her choice. If she decides she can't do it, we'll find another way. But there was no other way, and everyone knew it. The human fleet had positioned itself in the asteroid field where they had first found Nira. The plan was to draw the Kethvar fleet into the field, where their larger ships would have trouble maneuvering. When they were close enough, Nira would speak and both fleets would lose power. After that, it would come down to which species was better at improvising. Admiral, the Kethvar fleet is approaching, reported the sensor officer. They'll be in weapons range in 2 hours. Good. Signal all ships to prepare for manual operations. As soon as Nira speaks, we go dark for at least 4 hours. Make sure everyone knows how to restart their systems manually. On Nira's ship, Lisa was making final preparations. She had shown Nira exactly when to speak, when the enemy fleet was close enough that they couldn't escape the effect, but before they started shooting at human colonies. Are you ready? Lisa asked, using their system of drawings and gestures. Nira drew herself speaking, then drew a question mark. She was asking what word she should say. Lisa had thought about this. Say whatever feels right to you. Say something that means hope or freedom or home. Nira nodded slowly. She drew herself one more time, but this drawing was different. For the first time since they had found her, she drew herself smiling. She's ready, Lisa reported to Jake and Alex. Good, because here they come. Through the ship's windows, they could see the Kethvar fleet approaching. The enemy ships moved in perfect formation, their weapons powered up and ready to fire. They were confident, experienced, and absolutely certain that they would win this battle easily. War Chief Grakthos sent one final message. Surrender the weapon now or watch your worlds burn. Admiral Boyd's response was simple. Come and take her. The Kethvar fleet accelerated toward the human positions. In 30 minutes, they would be close enough to start destroying human ships. In 31 minutes, Nira would speak, and everything would change. Lisa sat beside Nira, holding her hand. When you're ready, she said softly. Just remember, this time, your voice is going to save people. Nira squeezed Lisa's hand and nodded. For the first time in over 50 years, she was going to use her voice to protect instead of destroy. She just hoped it would work. Pete Walsh was having the worst day of his career as chief engineer. One moment he was monitoring the ship's systems while the captain's team explored the alien station, and the next moment, every computer screen on the new horizon went dark. "What the hell just happened?" he shouted to no one in particular as he ran his hands over controls that no longer responded. Emergency power kicked in, but even that seemed weak and unstable. Karen White looked up from her navigation station with panic in her eyes. "Pete, I've lost contact with the away team. All communications are dead. Even the backup systems aren't working right." Pete grabbed his emergency toolkit and started pulling panels off the main computer. What he found inside made no sense. Circuit boards that had been working perfectly moments ago now looked like they had been hit by lightning. Some of the components were actually melted. "This is impossible," he muttered as he examined the damage. "These systems are protected against electromagnetic pulses. Nothing should be able to do this to our equipment." On the bridge, Acting Captain Susan Drake tried to stay calm as she watched her crew struggle with systems that had worked fine minutes earlier. "Pete, I need engines and communication. How long to get us back online?" "I don't know," Pete called, back through the ship's communication system, which was working but sounded like it was being filtered through water. "This isn't normal damage. It's like something drained all the power from our circuits and then fried them for good measure." Karen managed to get some basic sensors working using manual controls. "Captain Drake, I'm reading massive power fluctuations from the alien station. Whatever happened over there, it's affecting us too, and we're several kilometers away." Inside the station, Jake and his team were discovering just how bad things had gotten. Using chemical light sticks from their emergency kits, they could see that they were floating in what had become a tomb. The artificial gravity was gone, the air recycling systems had stopped, and even their communication with the ship was completely dead. "Our suit radios are working on short range," Ryan reported, "but everything else is fried. My weapon won't fire, my scanner is dead, and even my emergency beacon isn't sending a signal." Alex was examining his medical scanner by chemical light. "The electromagnetic field readings on this device are off the charts. It's like something created a massive pulse that overloaded every electronic component in the area." Lisa was still floating near the alien girl, who had curled up into a ball and was shaking. Not from the cold, Lisa realized, but from fear. "She's terrified," Lisa said softly. "Look at her, she's more scared than we are." "She should be scared," Ryan said, checking his equipment again. "She just killed every piece of technology in this place with one word. What kind of creature can do that?" "The kind that doesn't want to do it," Lisa replied, watching the girl carefully. "Look at her body language. She's not proud of what just happened. She's horrified." Jake floated closer to get a better look at the girl. Even in the dim chemical light, he could see tears running down her blue cheeks. Lisa might be right. If she wanted to hurt us, why would she warn us to run first? "Maybe because she can't control it," Alex suggested. "Maybe speaking in any language triggers some kind of biological response that she can't stop." Lisa reached into her pack and pulled out a small notebook and pencil, one of the few things that still worked in their new powerless world. She tore out a page and drew a simple picture of herself, then pointed to herself and handed the paper to the girl. The girl looked at the drawing, then at Lisa. After a moment, she took the pencil and drew her own picture next to Lisa's. Her drawing skills were better than Lisa's, and she added details that showed she understood human faces quite well. "She's been watching us for a while," Lisa realized. "She knows what humans look like." The girl drew another picture on the back of the paper. This one showed a large ship and smaller figures that looked like humans. She pointed to the drawing, then to them, then made a motion like the ship flying away. "She's telling us to leave," Jake said. "She wants us to get back to our ship." But then the girl drew another picture that made them all go quiet. It showed their ship, dark and powerless, floating in space. She had understood exactly what her voice had done to their technology. Ryan was getting impatient. "We need to get back to the ship and see how bad the damage is. We can't help her if we're trapped here too." "How do we get back?" Alex asked. "Our shuttle's electronics are fried just like everything else." Jake thought about this problem. The shuttle has manual controls for life support and basic movement. If Pete can get a rescue ship to us using chemical thrusters and manual navigation, we might be able to get out of here. Lisa was still working with the girl, using drawings to communicate. The girl had drawn a picture of herself alone on the station, then crossed it out. She pointed to herself, then to the humans, then drew a picture of them all together. She wants to come with us, Lisa said. She doesn't want to be alone anymore. Absolutely not, Ryan said immediately. She's too dangerous. One word from her could kill our entire ship. She's also a sentient being who has been alone for months, Lisa shot back. We can't just leave her here to die. Alex was studying the girl's drawings more carefully. Look at this one, he said, pointing to a picture the girl had drawn earlier. She's shown herself with other beings that look like her, but they're all crossed out. I think she's trying to tell us that her people are dead. The girl saw Alex looking at her drawing and drew another picture. This one showed creatures that definitely weren't human or like her. They were bigger with sharp edges and weapons. She drew these creatures fighting with her people, and when the fight was over, only she was left. Survivors, Jake said quietly. She's the last one left of whatever species she comes from. Lisa drew a picture of their ship and pointed to the girl, then to herself, making a questioning gesture. The girl understood and drew herself inside the ship, but then she drew lightning bolts coming from her mouth and the ship going dark. She knows she's dangerous to us, Lisa said. She's trying to protect us by staying away. Which is exactly why we should listen to her, Ryan argued. But Jake was thinking about something else. Alex, how long do you think she can survive here? Without power? Alex looked around at the powerless station. The air recycling stopped when the power went out. She's got maybe 12 hours of breathable air left, probably less. And without heat, the temperature is going to drop fast. So we either take her with us and risk her destroying our ship, or we leave her here to die, Jake said. Lisa was drawing again, showing the girl inside some kind of box or cage. The girl looked at the drawing and shook her head violently, then drew herself floating in space without a ship at all. She'd rather die than be caged, Lisa translated. They spent the next hour trying to communicate more complex ideas through drawings. The girl was quick to understand, and her own drawings became more detailed. She showed them that her voice affected all technology, not just human machines. She drew pictures of other alien ships going dark and falling from the sky. She's been used as a weapon before, Alex realized, looking at a drawing that showed the sharp-edged aliens pointing at her while she spoke at other ships. They kept her as a prisoner and made her destroy their enemies, Lisa said, anger clear in her voice. Jake made a decision. We're taking her with us. We'll figure out how to protect our ship later. Pete can work on shielding our critical systems. Captain, that's incredibly risky, Ryan protested. So is leaving a sentient being to die alone in space, Jake replied. We'll make it work. Lisa drew a picture showing all of them in their ship, flying away together. She showed the girl in a special room by herself, but not locked up. The girl looked at the drawing for a long time, then slowly nodded. It would take Pete 3 hours to get a rescue shuttle to them using only chemical thrusters and manual controls. In that time, they learned more about their new passenger through pictures and simple gestures. Her name was something like Nira, though the way she wrote it in her own symbols was completely different. She had been alone on the station for almost 8 months. She was hungry, scared, and tired, but she was also grateful that someone had finally come. When the rescue shuttle arrived, its electronics failing the moment it got close to Nira, they had to use ropes and manual winches to get everyone aboard. The trip back to the New Horizon was slow and dangerous, but they made it. As they approached their ship, Jake saw that Pete had been busy. Cables and antenna arrays that normally stuck out from the ship's hull had been retracted. Extra armor, plating had been moved to cover sensitive areas. I hope this works, Jake muttered as they prepared to dock. The moment Nira came aboard the New Horizon, every light on the ship flickered and died. Captain Jake Morrison stared at the massive structure floating in the darkness of space. His ship, the New Horizon, had been exploring this empty part of the galaxy for 3 months when they found it. The thing was huge, bigger than most space stations he had ever seen. It looked like it was made of crystal and metal twisted together in patterns that hurt his eyes to look at too long. "Captain, I'm reading one life sign," said Lisa Park from her position at the communication station. Her fingers moved across the controls as she checked the readings again. Just one person alive in that whole place. Jake frowned and walked closer to the main screen. The structure was beautiful in a scary way, like a frozen scream in space. "Are you sure about that reading, Lisa? One person in something that big?" "Yes, sir. The computers show one heartbeat, one body temperature, one breathing pattern. Whatever happened here, almost everyone is gone." Dr. Alex Carter looked up from his science station. "Captain, this design is unlike anything in our database. This isn't from any species we know. The energy readings are strange too. Most of the station is powered down, but there are small pockets of life support still working." Ryan Bell, the security chief, stepped forward. "Sir, this could be a trap. We don't know anything about whoever built this place. Maybe they left one person alive as bait." Jake thought about this for a moment. They were far from Earth, far from any help if things went wrong. But they were explorers, and their job was to find new life and learn about it. "How long has this station been drifting?" "Based on the damage patterns and power decay, I'd say at least 6 months," Alex answered. "Maybe longer. Whoever is alive in there has been alone for a very long time." Lisa turned around in her chair. "Captain, if someone has survived alone for 6 months in a damaged station, they need help. We can't just leave them." Jake looked at his crew. Lisa was right, but Ryan was right too. This could be dangerous. "All right, we'll do a rescue mission. Ryan, prepare a small team. Take Lisa for communications and Alex for medical support. Full environmental suits and weapons ready, but keep them lowered unless there's real danger." An hour later, the small shuttle carried them toward the alien station. As they got closer, Jake could see the damage more clearly. Parts of the structure looked like they had been hit by weapons fire. Other sections looked like they had just stopped working and gone dark. "There's a docking port that still has atmosphere," Ryan reported as he piloted the shuttle. "It looks like it was designed for ships about our size." "That's strange," Alex said. "Why would an alien species design docking ports that fit human ships, unless they're not that different from us in size?" The shuttle connected to the station. With a soft thud, Ryan checked the seals twice before opening the airlock. The air that came through was cold and stale, but breathable. Emergency lighting gave everything a dim red glow. They moved through corridors that were clearly built for people about their size. The walls were covered in symbols they couldn't read, but the layout made sense. Whoever lived here walked on. "2 legs and had hands like ours," Alex whispered. Lisa was checking her scanner as they walked. "The life sign is 3 levels down and about half a kilometer that way." She pointed down a corridor that stretched into darkness. As they walked deeper into the station, they saw more signs of whatever had happened here. Some rooms looked like they had been lived in normally, with furniture and personal items still in place. Other areas showed signs of fighting, with burn marks on the walls and debris scattered around. "This place gives me the creeps," Ryan muttered, keeping his weapon ready. "It's like everyone just vanished in the middle of their daily lives." They found the person in what looked like a small living area. She was sitting in the corner, wrapped in a blanket that had seen better days. When their lights hit her, she looked up with large, dark eyes that seemed too old for her face. She was clearly not human, but close enough that Jake felt a shock of recognition. Her skin was pale blue, almost white, and her hair was silver and fell to her shoulders. She looked young, maybe in her teens by human standards, but something in her eyes suggested she had seen too much. "Hello," Lisa said softly, lowering her weapon and holding up her empty hands. "We're here to help." The girl stared at them for a long moment. She was thin, too thin, and Jake could see that she hadn't been eating well. Her clothes were torn and dirty, and she looked like she hadn't slept properly in weeks. Lisa slowly approached, moving like she was trying not to scare a wild animal. She reached into her pack and pulled out a ration bar, offering it to the girl. "Food. Are you hungry?" The girl's eyes fixed on the food, and Jake saw her swallow hard. She was clearly starving, but she seemed afraid to move toward them. It's okay, Lisa said gently. We won't hurt you. We want to help. The girl reached out slowly and took the food. Her hands were shaking and she tore into the ration bar like she hadn't eaten in days. As she ate, she kept watching them with those dark, ancient eyes. Can you understand us? Lisa asked. Do you speak our language? The girl finished eating and looked at Lisa for a long moment. Then she opened her mouth and spoke one word in perfect English. Run. The moment the word left her lips, every light in the station went out. Jake's scanner died in his hands. Ryan's weapon stopped working. Even their helmet lights flickered and went dark. Emergency power failed, artificial gravity cut out, and they were suddenly floating in complete darkness. What just happened? Ryan's voice came through the communication system in their suits, but even that sounded weak and full of static. I don't know, Alex replied, his voice tight with worry. Every electronic device just stopped working. In the darkness, Jake heard Lisa's voice, calm and steady. It's okay. Everyone stay calm. We'll figure this out. But as they floated in the dark, powerless station, Jake wondered if they would have the chance.